Hello there, and welcome to the BATNA and Negotiations template. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Aleksandra Panic, and I'm the head of product at Procurement Tactics. Welcome to the BATNA and Negotiations template. The team at Procurement Tactics has over 20 years of experience in procurement and negotiations, which qualifies us to share our knowledge with you about BATNAs. Let's dive in. BATNA is a popular term when it comes to negotiations, and with it, the terms VATNA and MLNA may also pop up. Now, BATNA may be a central aspect of negotiations, but MLNA and VATNA should also be considered to have a good idea of your negotiation position. First, let's understand why we need to know what BATNA is. BATNA stands for the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. BATNA is the best alternative that a negotiation party can take if a negotiation fails and the agreement is not possible. This is important as it provides you with a safety net. This determines your reservation point, your last resort price, your negotiation power, and your alternatives if a negotiation doesn't work out. Not determining your BATNA means that you may be forced to accept whatever price a supplier asks for. This is something you want to avoid at all costs. To give you a clearer picture, here's an illustration of BATNA for both parties involved. Let me explain this illustration further. Zone of potential agreement is the overlap between the two parties' settlement range. Seller's settlement range is the biddable range the seller finds acceptable. Buyer's settlement range is the biddable range the buyer finds acceptable. Buyer's and seller's worst case is the respective party's reservation point. Now that we understand the illustrations part, let me explain how they operate. If the buyer offers a price lower than the seller's worst case, then the seller should look for an alternative. If the seller offers a price higher than the buyer's worst case, then the buyer should look for an alternative. The illustration alone may not be enough to simplify BATNA, so let's explore this further with some examples. A simple example is as follows. Suppose you're purchasing olive oil from a supplier A for $10 per liter. If you know you can purchase the same quality olive oil from supplier B for $11, you can negotiate much more aggressively with supplier A if they suddenly ask for a price of $12. However, if you don't have this alternative, then you have no choice but to accept this price. Here is a visual representation of the example that we just described. Here's another example. Grace needs to buy a gaming laptop and is trying to make a deal with Philip to purchase his. Philip offers to sell his gaming laptop to Grace for $1,000. Grace does her research and finds a similar second-hand laptop of the same model with a value of $750. Grace assigns $750 as her BATNA, and if Philip does not offer a lower price than that, Grace will consider her best alternative outside this negotiation. Grace would pay up to $750 for a gaming laptop of this model, but would ideally want to pay less, specifically $500 only. For Philip's BATNA, he is only willing to go as low as $800 and would sell it to whoever wants to reach this price, if Grace can't. For the illustration below, we can see if Philip asks for a higher price than $750, then Grace is ready to get her gaming laptop elsewhere. Since there is nothing that falls in the ZOPA of this negotiation, then two parties are incompatible for a deal, as Philip is only willing to sell for $800 while Grace is only willing to purchase for $750. So no win-win situation is viable in this situation. Now, let's take a look at a more complex version of the previous example. Grace Industries needs 10,000 laptops and they're negotiating with Philip Corporation to see if they're a viable supplier. Grace Industries would like to buy 10,000 units, ideally at a price of $550, a fixed discount of 6%, and a 5 times a year 25% promotional discount. However, Philip Corporation would like to ideally sell 10,000 units for $600 with a fixed discount of 4% and a 4 times a year 15% promotional discount. The current deal is 10,000 laptops for $500, a fixed discount of 5% and a 4 times per year 20% promotional discount. Grace Industries has a BATNA of 10,000 laptops for an invoice price of $550 with a 5% fixed discount and a 4 times per year 25% promotional discount negotiations if the negotiation with Philip Industries falls apart. Now outside BATNA, we also have VATNA and MLNA. Let's go over a brief overview of what exactly VATNA and MLNA are before we continue. VATNA means the worst alternative to a negotiated agreement. VATNA is an objective standard that helps you evaluate a potential settlement offer. It's like BATNA, but you're looking for the worst case scenario and evaluating the possible negative outcomes. VATNA is good to know for comparison with other options. This then gives you the knowledge to make informed decisions when negotiating time comes. MLNA is the most likely alternative to a negotiated agreement. MLNA is another variation of BATNA and VATNA, but it focuses on helping you determine the most likely outcome if you refuse a settlement. The MLNA gives you a realistic perspective of the outcome of your negotiation, which keeps you grounded in your expectations. In case any of the three things discussed are unclear, here's a table to distinguish them from each other. Now, let's go back to the topic. On this slide, you can see examples of what BATNA, VATNA, and MLNA are in the last example that we explained. Here, you can find a table that we filled in about a hypothetical situation. Let's imagine that VATNA, in this case, is 10,000 laptops for an invoice price of $700, a fixed discount price of 4%, and a 4 times per year 15% promotional discount. This would be the worst outcome if the deal falls apart. For MLNA, the invoice price of the laptop is $650 for 10,000 units with a 4% fixed discount and a 4 times per year 20% promotional discount. This is the most likely scenario to happen if the deal falls apart. Feel free to fill in this template by considering what your BATNA, VATNA, and MLNA is, depending on the scenario that you have. That is the wrap for this template. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you in our next lesson.